Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you're looking forward to 2020. We really enjoyed doing this in 2019, our inaugural year doing Between the 20s. Amer, Mike, what are you guys looking forward to with the football season, playoffs, coming in, winding down, whatever you want to call it? We got a good year in front of us. Mike, how you feeling?
Scared, B. It's a very scary year, actually. We're all going to be graduating from college and moving on to the real world. Not going to be sitting in the reg twice a week. Me about 7 times each week. No,
7 times a day, yeah.
Yeah, 7 times a day. Not going to be sitting here twice a week. That's going to be a little scary starting in June. But nonetheless, it's a live fantasy football podcast today. No, I'm just kidding. We have a good debate show for you, but that's B's job as the host to introduce, which I trust he will do a fantastic job of.
Thank you. How about you?
Oh, I'm feeling good. At the end of the decade, we're starting a new decade. It's a fresh start. 2020. It's weird. 2000 was 20 years ago. Imagine that.
Gentlemen, we were in 7th grade. Or basically, we were heading into the second half of 7th grade at the start of this decade. 6th grade at the start of this decade.
Crazy.
And now look at us.
And now we're old freaking
college.
Now we're old.
It's pretty freaking scary, boys. Pretty freaking scary. Everybody's got their Spotify things coming out. They're showing off all their artists of
Spotify
the decade.
Decade Wrapped.
Apple Music doesn't do the same thing, but they do give you a favorites mix, 25 songs once a week. And mine was 100 Years, which was my middle school graduation song by 5 for Fighting. I was a little emotional as I was listening to that this morning. I was like, oh wow, I'm not 15 anymore. I'm not. But I'm going to be 22.
You sometimes act like it, though.
I'm going to be 20. Yeah, I'm going to be
22.
Yeah, I'm going to be 22 this year. Yeah.
22.
Taylor Swift looking out for you. Because I'm 22. Get it? 22.
But even though as you look ahead to 2020, Mike has mentioned a fun tradition in Barbados, actually, where instead of the New Year looking forward, they actually look back. And what we're going to do is...
I'm an international man. I appreciate different cultures.
Amer's the one that has 44 countries on his international
44
Spotify.
different countries.
He takes one international music class, and he thinks all of a sudden he's a world traveler.
Hey, man, I've listened to more international music than you. That's all I'm saying.
But in the
Despacito and Senorita are his hits.
No, sir, they are not. They're Bryce's.
The year we drove the camp van.
The year I drove the camp van. But in the spirit of that, we're not only going to look back over the last year, but we're going to look back over the last decade. We're going to look at the 10s here, and with the big question, who is the best athlete of the 2010s? We have a really good debate for you, a lot of points, and I think you're going to really enjoy this. I know I will. We're going to start with Mike, our central debater. If you didn't know, Mike in high school was on the debate team.
I was. It was in this decade, so it's the last time I
counts. Yeah.
Thankfully, best athlete of the decade, I do have a moment that could qualify me for this, but unfortunately it occurred in 2009. I was in 6th grade. There was a quiz on linking verbs.
A quiz.
Hold on.
I did so poorly on the quiz that the teacher stopped grading it halfway down and just wrote, "See me." After getting that quiz, I had a soccer game that afternoon. After getting that quiz back, I had a soccer game that afternoon. At halftime, I went over crying to my mother about the fact that I had failed my English quiz.
No, this is
and that still wasn't the most embarrassing thing that happened on that soccer team that year.
That's a Hall of Fame performance from me.
It was, exactly.
Hall of Fame.
I qualified for Athlete of the Decade.
I think so.
Except for the fact that I was basically 2 years old when the decade started in the 2000s, so...
You're a prodigy.
I was a prodigy. It kind of hit my peak there at the end of that decade into this one. So it's kind of like a cross-decade thing.
But we'll start with the resident debater here with your opening statement on who is your best athlete of the 2010s.
My best athlete of the 2010s comes from New Jersey, but has prominently played in Los Angeles, and that is Mike Trout, winner of 3 MVP awards, phenomenal player, Rookie of the Year in 2012, All-Star every year from 2012 to 2019, and potentially, B will back me on this, potentially the greatest baseball player of all time if the rest of his career goes well.
I will give him that.
Mike Trout is my athlete of the decade here. I think it's quite clear.
Mr. Mansour, counterpoint.
Anyone that knows me, anyone that's watched this podcast or these videos know what I'm about to say, and I'm going to go with the GOAT, Tom Brady, TB12. He is the greatest athlete of the 2010s and the greatest quarterback who has ever played in the NFL, of course. Inarguable. He's made the Super Bowl He's won the Super Bowl 2014, 2016, 2018. He's on track to win it again this year. Yes, you heard it here first. Patriots winning this year's Super Bowl.
Are you sure about that?
Fitzpatrick throwing over the middle. Touchdown!
And he made the Super Bowl 2011 and 2017. And although he did lose, making it there is still an accomplishment. And, of course, he's been to 8 straight AFC Championship games. And it's all about him and Bill Belichick. We're talking about athletes, not coaches. So my guy, Tom Brady, 2 MVPs this decade as well. Can't argue with the numbers.
So we're talking athlete of the year, and you're picking someone who basically started the athlete of the decade. And you're starting someone who started the decade over 30.
Yeah. Go.
And has only won half of his Super Bowls this decade. Hasn't even been his full range of Super Bowls. Like, I could see Tom Brady as the whole.
How many World Series titles does Mike Trout have?
Well, baseball, you can... Now, the good part about baseball, though, you definitely could argue, Mike Trout on any other team, same Mike Trout, Tom Brady on any other team, does he go well without the Bill Belichick system? Very problematic.
No, he's system quarterback.
That's a
There's a
valid
Giants
argument.
hater.
Potentially a valid argument. But I have another fun fact for you coming out here. This stat courtesy of Foolish Baseball on Twitter, @FoolishBB. In his MVP seasons, Mike Trout's slash line has been 298, 417, 582.
Which on its own, I should just mention, for those of you that don't know baseball stats, that's absurd.
That's really good.
8.9 Fangraphs score. In his non-MVP seasons, Mike Trout has gone 314, 425, and 590.
That's an OPS over 1,000.
Thank you, B. And a 9.2 Fangraphs score. He's better in years when he doesn't win the MVP. He is just the GOAT in baseball the GOAT of the decade in baseball. I mean, it's the GOAT of athletics as far as I'm concerned. He is just a phenomenal baseball player. I don't think that, granted, I see the fact that Tom Brady has stayed on the same team. That's fair. Mike Trout's done the same thing.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's won on the same team. Mike Trout hasn't necessarily, but in baseball, I mean, the quarterback position, you can argue, is more important to an NFL team.
It is.
It is.
You can't argue that. It is.
All right, it's more important to an NFL team, but I mean, if you had someone of Mike Trout's caliber playing quarterback, they would be fantastic. I mean, like Patrick Mahomes on steroids. No, you'd have a better Patrick Mahomes. It'd be absurd. It would be absurd.
The ultimate goal of all sports is to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mike Trout is doing everything he can to help his team do that. It's not his fault that they can't put together a win.
I understand that baseball is definitely a different sport in terms of the impact that you have on the field as a single player, especially when you're comparing it to a quarterback. But I think you got to wrap that in. It's just he impacts the game in so many different ways as the quarterback. He runs the offense. He gets the wins. When you want that clutch gene, who are you looking for? You're looking for Tom Brady. You're looking for the GOAT. Down, 28-3? Everyone remembers 28-3 in the Super Bowl against one of the best offenses in NFL history.
I was tackled to the ground.
Comes back, puts up, 31 straight points for the Patriots in that Super Bowl, then follows that up with a 505-yard performance against the Eagles where his defense let him down. He should have won that Super Bowl. And then the year after, he did everything he could, led that final game-winning drive with the beautiful pass to Rob Gronkowski to ice that game against the Rams. And of course, you have to mention the 10-point deficit he came back against the Legion of Boom in 2014. He was down 24-14. Overcame that 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter, no less. Biggest fourth quarter deficit at that time until he did it again, broke his own record in 2016. Tom Brady's the clutch GOAT. In Super Bowls, he elevates, he brings it up against the toughest opponents, against the Legion of Boom, as we said, against the Rams defense last year, and of course against that unstoppable Falcons offense. His championship performance alone, discounting all of his wins in the regular season, all of his regular season performances, just puts him a level above anyone else in this category in terms of athletes in the 2010s. And he's just...
Well, I mean, let's think back to that 2019 Super Bowl, right? Was it an offensive slugfest? Did he really lead the offense to a fantastic performance? No, they scored 14 points. It wasn't very incredible.
14.
And it's not like the Falcons and the Eagles defense were stalwarts, really.
The Eagles defense was really good that year.
I really don't buy it that much. But I can tell you that Mike Trout, in so far his 9 seasons, or actually we go 8, not including his first partial season, He's led the league in OPS plus 6 times. 6 times. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And one time, 6 times, he's played in 130 or more games in all of those seasons, obviously, except for the first partial season.
Yeah.
He's there all the time, and he produces. That's Mike Trout for you.
Tom Brady's there all the time.
Oh, excuse me. He played 114 games in one season.
Yeah, he was hurt that season, and look, Tom Brady
Still led the league in OPS plus.
I mean, look, you can say the same things about Tom Brady. He's always been there. He's only missed those 4 starts when he was suspended for that bullshit Deflategate. I'm bringing up the profanity because of how strongly I feel about Deflategate. This is a PG channel, but I had to throw that in just because Deflategate was such a witch hunt. But besides those 4 games, he's been there throughout the whole decade, and he's won, he's produced, he's been clearly one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL throughout the whole decade. I don't know how you can discount Tom Brady. And I'm not discounting
Mike Trout has been the best at his position for basically the entire decade. You can argue that there are a bunch of quarterbacks who would be better than Tom Brady in that system.
In fact, we already had that debate.
Yes, exactly.
But
just for this year.
That was just this year.
But I think in general, Drew Brees this decade is comparable to Tom Brady. I think there's going to be a very good argument that I'd have Drew Brees on my team over Tom Brady. There's no argument I'd have this player, X player over Mike Trout.
You would lose that argument.
Patrick Mahomes. The potential
only played for 2 years.
Next year, but still, fantastic quarterback.
Come on.
Matt Ryan.
Matt
Ryan.
What?
Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers.
Mike loves Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is a fantastic
You're getting caught up in the recency bias hype right now. What? Matt Ryan is arguable to Tom Brady in this decade? Are you serious?
How many MVPs has Tom Brady won this decade?
2.
Matt Ryan's won 1. They're comparable.
What?
No other baseball player has won 3 MVP as far as I'm concerned.
1 versus 3 is how much of a difference is 1 versus 3 versus 1 versus 2?
Cabrera won 2. To be fair, Miguel Cabrera
has won 2.
Miguel Cabrera beat out Mike Trout for both of those as well.
Yeah, and Mike Trout put up better numbers those seasons than in his MVP years.
He did.
Lower variance of a fantastic performance from Mike Trout. That's really what you have there.
I still can't believe you said Mike. You brought up Matt Ryan in the same conversation.
Tom Brady.
Matt Ryan.
And you brought up Patrick Mahomes. He's played a year and a half. He's barely even played 2 full seasons in the NFL.
You can legitimately argue for Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers this time.
No, you cannot.
Yes, you can.
You cannot. Because if they were as good as Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers would have made more than 1 Super Bowl if he was as good, and he would have made the playoffs more often. He
doesn't have Bill Belichick as his coach.
He's gotten injured as well, which is a negative on his resume. And Drew Brees has had several years where he has not even made the playoffs. Tom Brady hasn't missed the playoffs.
But we talked in our Tom Brady episode about the fact that you could legitimately make an argument that Kirk Cousins or Carson Wentz could just fit right in for Tom Brady this year. And there are 6 guys that are absolutely better than Brady this year. No, but
that's just 1 year.
Yeah, but you could also see the fact that Bill Belichick is such a good coach that he adapts from year to year. He could do that with, I think, a quarterback even half the caliber of Tom Brady could be almost as successful.
There is no other quarterback that would have beaten the Legion of Boom down 10 in the 4th quarter and would have beaten the Falcons down 28-3. How good is a Belichick defense if you go down 28-3?
They might not have fallen that far.
They gave up 28 points. Aaron Rodgers lost to those same Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Championship game that year. And you know who he also lost to? The Falcons that year. The same year the Patriots beat the Falcons, Aaron Rodgers lost.
I'm just saying who I'd rather have on my team in a given.
Drew Brees didn't even make the playoffs in 2014.
That's okay. Was that Bountygate?
No, Bountygate was earlier, I think. That was against Brett Favre before Aaron Rodgers' time. I don't know.
But there are legitimate arguments that in a given season, you could take another player over Tom Brady. In pretty much
not including the playoffs. I don't think if you include the playoffs. But
that's selection bias because those players don't make it.
Because they're not good enough to make it in those seasons. That's not necessarily true.
Their whole team, like Tom Brady, is going to make the playoffs this year solely on the coattails of his defense.
This is one season. You can't focus the entire decade's argument on one season.
But you can make similar arguments.
Even if Tom Brady... Okay.
The point I started this out with the point that he was over 30 heading into this decade. So he has been an aging quarterback, and he needs to rely on... Bill Belichick needs to rely on other aspects of his team a little bit more.
The only time that is correct is 1 year. And, Mike Trout didn't play in 2010, and he didn't play in 2011. So that's 2 years where he has zero production this decade. And if you want to count zero production for Tom Brady this year, which I think is unfair, but if you want to count Tom Brady's zero production this year, he still has a whole year advance on Mike Trout. for this
Mike
decade.
Trout has been the inarguably best player in about 6 of those seasons.
You can make the same. I mean, look. Tom Brady is just what he does in the playoffs is just unmatched in NFL history and I think in sports this decade. So that's where I've landed right here.
Still Mike Trout, my man. B, what do you have to say to this?
Well, as the moderator, I can't really give my opinion, but I think it's safe to say that
I've shown that that's false, but continue.
that we have certainly left 2019 with a bang. Gentlemen, this was a heated discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope you guys did.
It's always a casual environment.
If you think
Well,
it's Mike Trout, if you think it's Tom Brady, if you think it's LeBron James, if you think it's
Serena Williams,
Connor McDavid, Serena Williams, anybody else,
Roger Federer.
Usain
Roger
Bolt,
Federer.
Roger
Bryson
Federer,
DeChambeau.
Michael Phelps,
Bryson DeChambeau,
Turning the golf game on its head
Bryson
for
DeChambeau.
years to come.
No.
He may be
Bring up someone
That
else.
just
that's
come
not
out
the
of your
last
mouth.
name.
he may be the most what's the word?
Sidney Crosby.
Sidney
Keep going,
Crosby,
keep going.
Connor
Finish your
McDavid.
outro. I don't want to have that in the video.
He-
I don't want to end.
DeChambeau may
I don't want to
be
end with
the most
Bryson DeChambeau.
instrumental, pivotal player of any. He's
Maybe,
turning the game of golf on
maybe,
its head.
but we need to see.
Who knows?
We'll see that in the next decade. But as of this
When I-
decade, he has no impact on this decade.
When I have kids, I might be giving them one size single line binders.
Might be, but we don't know.
Well, whether you think it's any of those men and women mentioned before, and if you think it's some Olympian, please give us a shout in the comment
Small
section.
Biles.
Michael
Simone
Phelps?
Biles.
I brought it.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
well,
But he's another guy who's like, it's the tail of his.
Still a machine.
if you have any comments, please feel free to put them at the end of this video. Hit us up here at these links: Twitter, Instagram. We also have a Facebook page. If you want to hear anything more about this, please let us know. We'd love to hear your comments. For that, thank you for watching for all of 2019, and we hope you enjoy what's to come for Between the 20s in 2020. And with that, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.